Like I said, I'm born and raised Muslim. You can call that, but we are not fanatic. Like this religion is between. For us, it's more nationality because we have more wars about nationality than religion. And now, due to the fact that we have 3 different religions and our nationality is like, okay, we're gonna fight with each other if we don't. And through the history, we have leaders that they try to avoid that religion thing and getting the nationality together so we can survive, basically, because we were fighting through against some really hard enemies like Turkey, Osman Perandri, like you call, and then we fight with Serbs. They were all. They have Russian behind them, and they were really supportive by some strong countries. So we were small. We are small anyway, and they tried so much to eliminate us and eliminate our nationality, but they couldn't succeed. And through the history, they even tried with Turks. They took kids in the villages, for example, and they send the kids to Turkey and they train them and they bring them again in the same area to fight against those people, and they call them Yeniçer. They were Yeniçer soldiers. But basically, they were Albanians fighting against Albanians. And that's how this one of our leaders, the main one, George Kastrioti Skanderbeu. George Kastrioti, his real name, it's Catholic name, which he's born as a Catholic, and they changed it to Skanderbeu. Skanderbeu is a Muslim name that they give him he was like an officer. Something with grades, he was a strong fighter, and when they came there, he remembers where he came from, and because he was in his teenage, and then they created their own Albanian army. Thank you. And that's how it all started, and he managed to get people together and fight against.
Sure. The Turks took him out, trained him, sent him back there expecting him to fight for them, and he formed an army and fought back using the tactics they'd been teaching him for a good part of his life.
Yeah, but
very interesting leader.
He's our leader and our symbol in every aspect right now. And like I said, we fight with many wars, and nationality is more important for us than anything else. So.
Most Albanian Muslims couldn't tell you the pillars of faith. They can't tell you. They know when Bayram is, but they can't tell you what it means.
It means that you get presents and you get money. So that's what it means. Most of the things like that. So.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting because at the end I'd like to debrief a little bit and talk about shared common values. But I think a lot of those things are coming out here because we're talking about presents and gifts and. Well, we'll come back to that idea. But go ahead.
Christmas.
Yeah. Rituals. So we'll open it up for questions because I'm sure you guys have lots of questions as we always do, and we can take off in any direction that you want to go from here.
How's your baby?
Oh, he's doing fine.
Cool. I got the right guy though, right?
Pardon me?
I'm asking the right guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
You can still have a baby when you're circumcised.
Well, I
know, David, how did your wife's family, being Lutheran, you said, react to you? And I mean, hopefully that was easy and they don't not speak to you anymore.
Well, my wife's dad is not in the picture, so my mother-in-law has just been very open, and she's always taken the attitude of whatever is going to make her daughter happy is fine with her. So it was relatively easy on that front. She went to her mom and said, I'm going to convert to Judaism, and she said, okay. And it was relatively easy. That worked out pretty well for her. They, when we had our wedding, it was the first time that a majority of her family had been into a temple. And so we did try to be sensitive to that. We printed up a little program. We tried to explain some of the words that would be used, some of the traditions that were going to be a part of the ceremony, because we also have a lot of non-Jewish friends. So we wanted people to kind of understand what was happening. What was interesting was actually my family initially had a harder time with her. My mom was okay with my wife, but my grandmother was not a real big fan of my wife eventually, not because of anything about her, but just because she was a shiksa, which is a derogatory term for a non-Jewish female. And so my grandma's attitude was initially, she's a shiksa, and just kind of ignored her. Eventually it was like, she's okay for a shiksa. Eventually it was like, she's really nice, except she's a shiksa. And then eventually, shortly before my grandmother passed away, my wife did tell her that she was converting. My grandma was happy about that, but I think still kind of viewed my wife as a bit of an outsider because of that. For me personally, it's kind of interesting. I always think that someone who actually converts to a religion, to me, in a sense, that seems like they have a stronger faith.
Right.
I mean, they chose this for themselves. They potentially went against their family and chose it. So I feel like in a lot of ways, even though I've been Jewish longer and it's part of my heritage, I feel like in a lot of ways she is more Jewish than I am.
Right.
By that virtue. So her family was always very accepting of me being Jewish. They did have some questions. They wanted to know a little bit, but they were pretty open. That said, though, we still get Christmas cards. So make what you will of that.
Got a question?
We send Christmas cards because we know they celebrate Christmas, so I feel that's fair. It does still, honestly, it's not that it hurts me, but it does kind of surprise me still a little bit that for my mother-in-law and some other relatives that are a little closer that we still get the Christmas cards. My wife and I never say anything about it. Maybe that's part of it, and it's nice to be remembered and to get something. But having known, knowing that we're Jewish and we're raising our daughter Jewish and they were at our wedding, to me it seems like potentially they could have. And we do have some relatives on my wife's side that do send us Hanukkah cards, and I always think that's really nice, very aware of them. Yeah.
The whole stomping on the ground and crushing, what is it?
Yeah, it's part.
I always see it in movies like Meet the Fockers,
Mhm.
yeah, and Meet the Parents and all that when they got married at the end.
It is part of the Jewish ceremony. You're supposed to step on a glass and break it. I had to do it twice because the first time I didn't stomp down hard enough, apparently. But it's meant as a noise, as a loud sound to kind of mark the fact that the celebration is to begin. I think that's my best understanding of
All right,
the
I'm
ritual
just always
behind it.
curious. I'm like, why did I say to step on me?
Yeah,
Actually heard
it's
something
part.
yesterday about it, about some temple falling, and that's what it was supposed to signify or something. Heard it on like.
Sounds like we'll see this on the discussion board.
Then you can ask your wife, because she might know.
She might. She's smart. Yeah, I wish she was here now.
Check your wedding program.
Yeah.
Yeah,
go
Dave, I got a question for you. What's the religious view of life after death from the Jews' point of view?
That's a good question. With Judaism, we don't believe in reincarnation. We believe that the soul kind of lives on, in a sense, more so in the lives of those who are left behind, as opposed to going to a heaven or a hell. Those concepts are not part of Judaism.
So it's like there is no life after death, so to speak.
There is no life after death. There is no concept really of heaven or hell, but there is the concept of what you have done and the impressions that you've made on people, kind of your acts.
Right.
Who you were can live on in that sense.
That's neat, I didn't
Yeah,
really
that's
know that.
pretty sweet. I like that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
What's
I may convert some more people.
Yes,
I don't
you
know.
might.
I don't know.
why are Jewish people so against like body piercings and tattoos?
I have not heard that to be the case. You may have more information than me on that one. What have you heard?
I don't know. I was reading a book by a Jewish author, and her mom had a hissy fit when she came home with her nose pierced, and she said it was something about desecrating your body, and I don't know.
Huh.
Do Muslims have any points of view on that? Do you know?
Well, I don't want to talk about Muslims because I don't really know
Okay.
about that. So I don't want to, talk about. But there are a lot of people with tattoos and stuff like that. It's nothing. I don't think that there is anything. Well, we do have a thing that in Quran it says that if you can marry the women as much as you can afford, it's just. I'm just bringing that up like something that, it's just one of those things that, but nothing for ears or tattoos.
Can you guys talk real briefly, since we're touching on it right now, about your books? If we were talking about Christian Catholics, I would be talking about the Bible, both the Old Testament and the New Testament, and what the difference between those are. But, from a Muslim faith, from a Jewish faith, from Holly, wherever you want to go with it.
Seventh Day Adventists go off the Bible. Old Testament, New Testament, you know, Bible is literal word for word. It's not stories that represent things. It's, you know,
So it's a
what
literal
actually happened.
representation.
Adventists have a prophet named Ellen White, who lived, I want to say now, about 100 years ago, who they believe her writings are also divinely inspired, and a lot of the teachings in the church are based on some of the things that she had to say. For instance, a lot of Seventh-day Adventists are vegetarian as a lifestyle because they believe in body health. Adventists don't believe in body piercings because they don't believe in wearing jewelry or makeup. It's part of that whole, you know, that's vanity and spending money on things that, you know, is unnecessary.
Are Seventh-day Adventist people who wear the skirts all the time?
No, no. It's not Amish, although, you know, sometimes it sounds like it.
It's like,
Yeah. It's more about your body is God's temple. You know, you should take care of yourself. You should live healthy. You should live clean. Nothing in excess, not alcohol, not certain kinds of meats, you know, depending how strict an Adventist you are. But pretty much it's a Christian faith. What makes Adventists slightly different is their belief that the biblical day of worship is Saturday. In the Old Testament, that was more true. So Seventh-day Adventists worship on Saturday and believe in keeping that Friday night to Saturday night holy. They actually have quite a lot in common with Jewish faith. What the difference between them, the biggest difference is, of course, the New Testament being part of Adventist tradition, where it's not with Judaism, to my understanding.
Yeah.
And then Catholics, you know, it's Bible, it's saints, it's... My mother was in her 40s before she ever read a Bible. Not because she's a strict Catholic, but because it was beat into her head so much growing up that you're not meant to understand this. You know, that's why you go to church. The fathers in church understand it, and you shouldn't try. And even now, as an older woman, she turned 60 in February, and she's maybe read Bible a handful of times in her life because of that lingering childhood belief about it.
what about the hair cutting thing? Is that something else too?
That's not something with Adventists just don't believe in being flashy.
There must be Scientologists, but
Might be.
Not Scientology.
There's some hair things with Judaism, isn't there?
In certain, yeah, I mean, there's different types of Judaism. There's
Sure.
Orthodox, which
Yeah.
is kind of more heavy duty, and there's